Alright guys, another video for fishing. Hard to believe, I know. But we're back at it. So today, this is just this is a small little portion of what I use for creek fishing lures when I do my fishing. So now some of this stuff I have used in other areas of fishing, but they work really well. So taper your expectations for creeks. Now, what is important is that just because this stuff works in my creek does not mean it will work in your local creeks. This is the stuff that I have found that works. I've probably done 4 or 5 years honing down what really works, what really doesn't work in terms of fishing lures and tackle. So some suggestions for top water for smallmouth. I love Heaton's Zara puppies. I believe these are like 2.5 inches or something like that. I forget what the length is on these. But if you actually look on the back, it actually tells you how to actually work your lures and recommended equipment and all that other good stuff and what fish it's good for. A lot of these companies actually have on the back, if you guys are ever curious how to work them or anything like that, actually have like instructions on how to retrieve them and all that other good stuff. But there's a couple of things on here that I have that it doesn't tell you how. I personally worked them, but I found that they work really good. Anyway, Zara Spook Puppies, really good for top water action. If that's, I mean, most bass fishermen, that's really what. I mean, let's be honest. That's the epitome of all bites right there for us is top waters. So this is a good one. It's just a simple walk the dog. So you can basically just twitch your rod tip in between loose line, and it kind of does a like a doom 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 like that kind of motion. And again, Zara Spook Puppies. I wouldn't go bigger than this. I've used the bigger version, like the 3.5 inch ones. They don't seem to like it as much as the smaller ones, and that's just obviously probably because it's a creek. The bigger stuff is making louder noises and it's just scaring them. So there's that. I don't have it out here, but another one that Heaton makes that's really good is actually the torpedoes, the tiny torpedoes. And it's basically like, if you guys know whopper ploppers, it's basically like a whopper plopper. It's not exact. It's the same concept as whopper plopper, it just makes a different sound. And if you just go with a small sized down one, then you'll be good to go. They like to hit those too. And the thing to note, when you get these, you'll see people, they have a lot of colors. They say, oh, this color works really well, and blah, 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 blah. It's really a fishing gimmick. It's to catch the fisherman, not so much the fish. The only color on this lure right here that matters to the fish is if you flip it upside down, this is what the fish is going to see. Not the top, maybe the side, depending where they're coming from it. They're going to see this if they're looking right up above it. So, a lot of this, I personally have fallen to this too. The whopper ploppers got different colors, perch, the I know it color, and all that other stuff. The only time this top color is going to make a difference is if the bottom of this was like a clear plastic and the sun's rays are coming down. That's obviously going to reflect the color of the top of the lure. So just be mindful of this. Really, the bottom of this is really only thing that they're going to be able to see, really, is that bottom. Maybe the sides. For the most part, it's just going to be the bottom. So another thing that has worked really well in my neck of the woods are these little Rapala jointed shad wraps. Now, this is, I believe, the shad color. If I remember correctly. Yeah, silver shad. On the back, it's got instructions how to do it and such. So silver shad gives you instructions on how to retrieve it. Again, I know this is something that they like to eat out in the lake, and when they come into the creek, it's going to be no different. I don't really get a good run of shad except for in the fall, but it is an effective lure. Where to go next? So this is kind of similar to what I use. This isn't exact. I've never used Rapala's ultralight minnows. I've used something similar to their sinking minnows. I think, what is it? Their countdown minnow. That works pretty good too. I think this is just gonna basically be a jerkbait for me. I think that's basically all you gotta do for working it. Fire tiger kind of imitate the perch, which is pretty prominent in my creek perches and in the lake where I'm at. Another option. I actually like the Trout HD version in the silver color. I think it's I forget what the actual color is, but it basically looks like a little tiny minnow. And that has caught me so many fish, that one. I forget where I got them from. I have to look up where I got them from because I'm really disappointed I don't have any more. I really need more of them. I believe it's J7. Now, a lot of you guys may recognize that the J7, if you do salmon fishing, you know all about the Fire Tiger J13s. You know all that good stuff. You know they're good for them. I am going to actually try these for creek bass this year. We did the same thing I did with them when I salmon fished with them. And we're going to see how that works. But I've used stuff similar to this, and it works really good. Anything jointed seems to work way better than stuff that isn't jointed in my creek for whatever reason. I think it's probably just the extra action on it, to be honest. But we'll see how that goes. This is another one I would recommend. And another really good option, if the fish in your area are crawfish dependent, meaning that they eat a lot of crawfish, is just a Ned rig craw. Yum makes perfect Ned craws, PB&J color. You look at, they're about as big as my finger is. All you gotta do is drag them along the bottom, and you'll feel, but basically just almost kind of like a jig in a way. But that's another one that does decently. I haven't fished the Ned rig that much. They don't really, for me, they don't work too often. Not at all, in my experience, actually. But this is one that everyone swears to, is the Ned craws. Or Ned rigs in general. It doesn't have to even be a craw. Could just be a little stick bait. Not a stick bait, oh, if you got like the 3-inch Yamamoto Senkos, and you just slid one on there like that, that's worked just as well. Then you need your shroom jig heads for your Ned rig. Nothing fancy, just a good old Bass Pro brand. Don't get crazy expensive with them unless you have a preference. Now, these right here, these Bitsy Bug jigs, are phenomenal. I think they're like $1.88. So if you lose one, who's really caring here? If you're losing one, just work it like your regular old bass jig. Drag it on the bottom, twitch it up, pop it once in a while, and then bada boom, you'll get hit. No question, especially creeks, because there's a lot of crawfish in creeks. So there's an option for you. And what I like to do with these, I like to have different colors, because for different water conditions and stuff like that, to kind of blend it in a little bit more, make it a little bit more natural presentation. You can't go wrong with green pumpkin at all. I have no idea what color this is, though I'm shooting 100% with you folks. So there's an option. And then what I like to do with these, for what I'm using these for, your Guggenbaits, your Kraken Craws. I use them they're going to be used for a jig trailer this year. For what I'm using them for, I think these are like, whew, you can really smell the anise on them. I think they're $5.99, which is, for what I'm using them for a jig trailer, is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if you're going to Texas rig them and stuff like that, then go for it. I think personally, for a plastic craw, these are a little bit overpriced. You can find cheaper plastic craws, and they do the same thing, in my opinion. Another thing I like to use is actually Bass Pro's brand Stickos. Basically like a Senko. And what I mean, it's basically like a Senko. It is a Senko, except for it's just Bass Pro's brand.